This is the most important metabolic and political story of our lifetime, and we've only read the prologue. Science accidentally discovered that these gut peptides don't just manage calories. They reorganize decision-making, inflammation, reward, and energy allocation. This is not cosmetic medicine. This is systems-level recalibration. GLP-1 drugs reduce heart attack risk, lower systemic inflammation, improve endothelial function, blood vessel health. These drugs are now being treated as cardioprotective agents, not vanity weight tools. Not a fad. Peptide engineering is now advancing towards obesity, diabetes, heart failure, inflammation, addiction, neurodegeneration, autoimmune disease, even aging biology. Peptides don't cross the blood-brain barrier randomly, don't accumulate in fat unpredictably, don't generate toxic metabolic byproducts. They degrade cleanly into amino acids, biological compost rather than chemical wreckage. About obesity, it treats obesity not as a character flaw, but as a biological signal misfiring under modern conditions. And that, frankly, is a moral upgrade in medicine. Now for the politics of longevity and addiction. The peptide age, how a weekly injection exposed the lie at the heart of American power. A molecule has done what a century of moral scolding could not. It has dismantled the myth that fatness is failure. It has embarrassed the priesthood of willpower. It has indicted an economic system that profits most when biology breaks. Its name is tirzepatide, its family, peptides, its political impact, seismic. What we are living through is not a weight loss craze. It is a biological revolt against the oldest American slander that suffering is always a personal choice. The death of the bootstrap's body. For generations, American power sold this fairy tale. If you are poor, work harder. If you are sick, try harder. If you are fat, starve harder. GLP-1 and GIP peptides detonated that lie in slow motion. When millions of people report that their hunger simply turned off, not through discipline, but through receptor signaling, the moral architecture of punishment medicine collapses. This is the political subtext no cable panel wants to touch. If biology governs appetite, then cruelty was always policy, not necessity. Corporate food built the trap. Corporate healthcare sold the bandages. Now peptide science quietly steals the whip from both. Why the right is nervous, and the wellness left is too. The American right thrives on personal blame economics. If obesity becomes a treatable endocrine disorder instead of a character verdict, then an entire ecosystem of shame collapses with it. Fat moralism, workfare health ideology, earn your care politics. Meanwhile, parts of the wellness left, who turned natural suffering into a boutique identity, also recoil, because peptides do something unforgivable in certain circles. They work without spectacle. They bypass the ritual of purification. They do not require public suffering. No cleanse, no guru, no virtue drama. Just quieter hunger and falling inflammation. Revolutions that arrive without theater terrify everyone who sells costumes. Insurance, class, and the new metabolic divide. Right now, your zip code still determines whether you get access to the peptide future. Wealthy patients get metabolic peace. Poor patients get mandatory lifestyle counseling lectures that ignore endocrine reality. This is the next frontier of healthcare apartheid. One class eats under hormone regulation, the other eats under moral probation. Every delay in universal access is not about safety. It is about who is allowed relief from shame first. Addiction, incarceration, and the dopamine economy. Early evidence shows GLP-1 drugs reduce alcohol consumption, binge eating, compulsive reward seeking, which means America is accidentally stumbling into a truth it has violently avoided. What we called criminal impulse was often damaged reward machinery. If peptide therapy curbs addiction at scale, it destabilizes the private prison industry, the rehab grift economy, the punishment-first narcotics state. And suddenly the question changes from why can't they control themselves to why did we profit from the breakdown? The quiet threat to the diet industrial complex. Peptides do not sell. Transformation mythology, 90-day beach lies, before and after shame porn. They undermine a trillion-dollar commerce built on permanent dissatisfaction. What happens when bodies stabilize instead of yo-yo, when hunger doesn't scream, when inflammation falls instead of festers? An entire media economy based on bodily self-hatred begins to suffocate. And good riddance. The deeper political tremor: aging, labor, and power. These peptides extend metabolic health span. That is not cosmetic. That is labor policy by other means. A population that ages more slowly, stays insulin sensitive, maintains muscle, avoids cardiovascular collapse, is not just healthier, it is harder to discard. Suddenly retirement looks different, disability economics shift, corporate burnout math breaks. When bodies stop failing on schedule, power structures that depend on predictable bodily collapse become unstable. The moral reckoning still coming. The final political earthquake has not yet arrived, but it is already mining beneath the surface. If much of suffering was biochemical, not moral, how many lives were wrongfully blamed? How many children were shamed for appetites they never chose? How many workers were judged for exhaustion their mitochondria could not relieve? How many addicts were incarcerated for receptor damage masquerading as vice? Peptide science does not just treat disease. It rewrites culpability, the new politics of the body. We are entering a century where hunger becomes optional, compulsion becomes regulatable, inflammation becomes negotiable, aging becomes delayable. And that means power will shift, not from ideology, but from physiology. The old politics said, endure or deserve. The emerging biology replies, heal and remember who taught you to endure. The peptide age has arrived without banners, without marches, without slogans, just quieter stomachs, slower inflammation, calmer dopamines. And in that quiet, the oldest lie in American politics is finally audible as what it always was. A story told by power to justify neglect. The biology is changing faster than the ideology, and that's where the real revolution lives. As you may imagine, I'm in my 6th week of using Zepbound. The focus and benefits gained have blown me away. I'm fortunate enough to afford this fountain of youth. There will be dramatic cultural changes, I can guarantee it, from only my 6-week journey of healing. I did the research for this post, so you don't have to. Peer-reviewed studies below on GLP-1 and by extension peptide effects beyond diabetes, obesity, neuroprotection, inflammation, cellular health. These papers support the idea that peptide-based drugs like GLP-1 and dual GLP-1/GIP agonists may exert systemic benefits well beyond appetite control, potentially touching aging biology, inflammation, neurodegeneration, and organ health. Thank you for reading, and now you know to brace yourself for a long, long life. Happiness, well, that's yet to be decided by those in governments around the world. Like, subscribe, and share.